I present to you Mr. Micah Kritzman.
I have said it here before that it's your job to use me up. When I go in the grave, that's what my gravestone's going to say, all used up. But I need my business community to make sure that that happens. So tap me, use me, leverage me. So I had a bunch of questions that came in, and I opted to kind of not really talk about those. There was one question that was asked about trends, like what's coming in 2020. So I thought I'd spend some time talking about what we're looking at coming in the pipeline for 2020 when it comes to website design or functionality, and also about digital marketing. And so this is what I'm going to kind of focus in on today. So we've been in a evolution of mobile-ready website. We're now about 50 in the US, about 57% of access to websites is coming over a mobile device. And Google flipped the mobile first switch about 7 or 8 months ago. And what that means is that if your website is not built to work well on a mobile device, and that means like responsive design, things morph on the fly, we get the hamburger navigation, we don't just have an old web page that's like really tiny, or we only see half the web page. It actually is built to work on a mobile as well as a desktop. If you're not mobile ready, Google will not send you traffic if somebody's searching for you from a mobile device, their cell phones, their tablets. So mobile ready, mobile first is going to be becoming even more and more important as we're moving forward. Technical SEO is still paramount. There's a lot of companies that sell you SEO services, like ongoing SEO services. Technical SEO, though, this is things like where you host your website has an impact. Many web hosts, some of our really big national brands, have very slow servers, very slow loading time. Google drives less traffic to you. Optimized images, scaled images, meaning we don't take an image that's this big and shrink it down to this size. We actually go into Photoshop and make it that size, and then we display it in the web page. Because if Google looks at an image and says, hey, you're showing it at 400 pixels wide, but the image is 2,000 pixels wide, that's called a scaled image. That's a negative hit on your SEO, and that alone could get your ranking within a Google from like a B ranking is not too hard to get, down to an F. Just your scaled images alone will take you down that far. So it's really important. Code minification, these are some of the technical things, but we take code and we shrink it. So we take out all the white space, which takes out physical kilobytes or bytes out of the file. And code combining, so we take multiple files, put them in one. It just makes it so when we're talking to the web server, maybe we talk 10 times instead of 30 times. Or we talk 30 times instead of 100 times. Every communication back and forth between the web browser and the web server slows things down. So the technical SEO is getting things as optimized as we can for Google. Leveraging caching, and the important thing is getting the web page load times as fast as we can. If you're somebody that buys any of Google advertising, how fast your web page loads will impact what you pay for your bid price for keywords in Google pay-per-click. In addition to all the technical SEO. So if your technical SEO is off, you pay more for advertising. It's very simple in Google's eyes. SSL, everybody's website should have security today. Most web hosts have free initiatives that we can tap into, so we don't have to spend $100 or $150 a year to have SSL. If you don't have a good web host that has that, talk to me. I'll recommend your web host gives you free SSL certificates. One of the big things we're going to start seeing in the design of web pages is the navigation bars are becoming a lot more minimalistic. I was on a major Fortune 100 company the other day, and their whole navigation bar is gone. They have one navigation item and a hamburger menu. That's those 3 little lines that we see on the mobile. So we're now starting to see that bring into desktop websites. So you have just one little hamburger icon, you mouse over, and it brought up this thing like the size of my sheet that had all these different columns, sections, and rows of navigation for the entire website from one button, instead of having to mouse over a bunch of different things. Freeform layouts, this is a big push. We're so grid-based. Everything in a web is rows and columns and has a very rigid structure to it. So next year we're going to see more of a push to get outside of the grid. This is a lot of design elements that are going to start free flowing, and things are going to be less lined up and a little more artistic, shall we say. Bold colors are really coming in strong next year. Larger fonts and less text. And that combines to equal something that's more actionable. So the text is still really critical for Google, but in the same regard, we're balancing between actionability for a user and what Google wants. We're going to see more animated elements. So we're starting to see, as we scroll down web pages, maybe things sliding in, or as we interact with objects, maybe they move or they twirl or spin or bounce. These are very simple elements that are all built in that don't require, back in the day, required Adobe Flash. I think 15 years ago, if you want to animate anything, it was Adobe Flash, but Flash is gone. We can animate today, which is basic JavaScript. So these are things that work on every device. Doesn't matter if it's an iPhone, an iPad, an Android, a desktop, PC, Mac, Linux. Just kind of works everywhere. Increased usage of SVG files. These are scalable vector graphics. So any of you that had a logo design, or if you work with Jules, you're going to get what we call a vector file, an Adobe Illustrator.ai or an EPS file. And why vector files are important is they're math-based. When you take a JPEG and you stretch it, it gets blurry. It loses fidelity. When you take a vector file, like think about a Word doc. It doesn't matter if it's a 10-point font or a 1,000-point font. It's crystal clear always, and that's what a vector file is. So anytime that I can get a vector file from a client, we use the vector files for their logos. We use SVG instead of putting JPEGs, and that just allows it to scale and look really clean regardless of the device, rather than the more traditional approach right now is providing a graphic that's scaled for maybe the average computer and then one that is scaled for the really high-end Retina displays that Apple puts on their products. So we're getting kind of away from that and using more of the SVG files. We're seeing more voice-activated search within websites themselves. So if you're in like the Walmart or you're in Amazon, rather than going to the search bar and typing, you can actually click the little microphone and you can talk to that web page and have that evoke the search. And as that becomes more mainstream, those types of tools and technologies will become more available for just the average website, the average blogger, the average content generator that may have a lot of depth of content that we rely on the search. We'll be talking more to the searching. AI-powered chatbots. These are really common today. If you go to a big corporation, let's say we go to the Spectrum website, there's a really good chance we'll get a little thing that says, hey, how can we help you today? And then based upon what you type in that box, they're going to come back and they're going to offer you the next step. So you say, hey, I need help with my home internet. They're going to come back with something. Okay, you need help with your home internet. We're going to put you in touch with a home internet specialist. Or if you say, hey, my home phone is down, it can understand the context of what it is you're typing in. Hey, I have a billing problem. No problem. I'm going to get you through to our billing department. So we're going to see more and more of the chat bots are becoming really, really popular. Now, we've had chat bots have been there, these things that just pop up and say, hey, I'm available, chat me. The idea of an AI-powered chatbot is you don't have to have an app on your phone or some program on your computer that you actually have to interact with. It's going to talk for you and try and best guide the customer through the process, and then ultimately give you a pre-qualified question that you can interact with that customer. And the more knowledge, the more powerful. Wow, that time goes by fast. Marketing trends for next year. We're going to see a lot more of the virtual assistants, things like Siri, Google. I've started talking about it. I talked about it last week. Is your website findable on Siri or Google Assistant or Cortana? That's going to become ever more popular or important. Influencer marketing continues to gain more steam, and influencer marketing doesn't mean you have to commit huge amounts of money. There's micro influencers that have communities of 20 or 30,000 people that are accessible for small dollar amounts or sharing your products with, have them review them. There's a lot of different ways to leverage the influencer marketing. Video, if you don't have video on your website, right here, Mr. Warren, video is the easiest thing you can do to keep people on your website longer, because we're lazy. Give me a play button. You got me for at least 60 seconds. Don't give me a 10-minute video, by the way, because I'll look at the timeline. If it's more than 2 or 3 minutes, I'm probably going to stop playing. But you give me a good 30-second, 60-second spots, that's accessible. I click play, you're going to have my eyeballs for the whole duration of that message. Augmented reality, this is really big happening now. So think about things like Pokemon Go. Harry Potter now has an augmented video game. IKEA. Did you know you can get on the IKEA app, you can take a picture of your room and you can place in product into your room. That's augmented reality. So we're taking a real picture or video of something and we're sticking objects in it. So IKEA's got that. We're going to see more of that type of stuff. Interactive content. Pinterest, really popular for shoppable posts. So posts for a product that connect directly to that product in your e-commerce and your website. And remember, we always want to drive that traffic back to your website. I'm the first saying here, Google's probably going to get split up in a couple of years. The whole marketplace is going to change. Government's looking at Facebook, their mechanisms and things that are going on there. So I predict in the next 3-ish years, the whole marketing landscape, how I drive traffic, is going to shift dramatically. So what I can tell you is everything you do is invest in getting people back to your website, because your website's what you own and what you can monetize. 360 videos, Warren does those. And virtual tours, Warren does those. Those are going to become a lot more important as we interact with product. So 360 tour of your shop allows me to go on a Google map and walk into the shop and look around, and that's really an empowering, makes it far more accessible to people. Quizzes and polls continue to be really popular ways to get people engaged, especially through social media. And I'm almost done, whoever's timing me, because I am timing me. Social messaging apps are becoming more important in the corporate world. So I have on my Slack, I have a Slack channel, like we have our Success Squad channel, I have an LA Internet channel, I have an Adobe channel. And I can literally go on my app right now and message Adobe support, and I'll get an answer back within like 2 or 3 minutes from a human being helping me troubleshoot my problem. But we're going to see major corporations leveraging more tools like Slack, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger for marketing purposes, for customer follow-up purposes, not just for customer support purposes. So they're beginning to really expand how they communicate and connect with us. Yeah, and that's pretty much the trends. That's what I put together for you guys here today. So, any questions?
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm like,
There's a lot of cool stuff coming.
You were talking about the difference between like JPEG files when you start moving those, and was it the vector one?
Yeah.
Kind of. Is it advantageous to save most of your stuff, just have it automatically, proactively saved that way, or is that usually a translation? Because I'm thinking, save as for vector.
No, when we take a photograph, photographs don't lend themselves to vector, because vector wants like lines and solid colors. Photographs have gradations and they're very pixel based, so we don't save photos as a vector file.
Okay.
Saving a JPEG as an EPS doesn't make sense. But anything that we create as vector, as math-based, anything created in Adobe Illustrator, CorelDRAW, Microsoft Word, those types of programs should always be in some sort of vector format. Typically, vector is better for print, large scale. We want to put something on the side of a bus, a building, a vehicle wrap. We're going to want bigger. But if it's a photo, it's always going to be what we call raster. Raster is basically like a printed canvas. There's just dots of ink on a canvas, and that's why when you stretch it, it gets blurry. So don't save your JPEGs as EPS. It won't get you anywhere. Yeah. Any other questions? Woo! Thank you, guys.